Hey everybody, Dave Bleckman here with the Annapolis Photography Workshop Group, brought to you by Positive Negatives, and I want to welcome you to this first edition of Free Weekly Wisdom. So what's going to happen is every week, it could be Monday, it could be Wednesday, it could be Friday, it could be the weekend. Every week I'm going to upload a free weekly wisdom video that will not expire. It will stay up for as long as I can keep it up. So maybe I shouldn't have said it that way. But anyway, you don't have to watch it over the weekend. You don't have to watch it by midnight, Sunday night. It'll stay up. So I hope you enjoy these free weekly wisdoms as opposed to just the free weekend wisdom. So what I want to talk about today and show you is what I'm going to do to some images that were shot in the middle of the day. I know there's a lot of people that feel like you can't go out midday and do landscape photography because it's too bright or it's too contrasty, and there's not the morning blue hour or the afternoon golden hour. I know there's a lot of photographers that teach workshops that they take the entire afternoon off. They go out in the mornings and they take the afternoon off, and people take naps and sleep and eat lunch and do whatever, go to the pool, and then they go back out in the afternoon. Well, how would you like to go to a wonderful location, whether it be in Europe, whether it be in Asia, whether it be a great place here in the US, and you sign up for a workshop and you do morning photography and you do evening photography and you got nothing going on during the day? You know, you're wasting daytime, day after day after day, if you're not out shooting in the middle of the day. So I have a saying, and that goes, that there's no such thing as bad light. There's just bad usage of light. Light is light. Without light, there's no photography. So when you have light, learn how to use it. But even more importantly, you can't always get that great picture in one shot in the middle of the day. I get that. I understand that. That's why digital photography is light years ahead of back in the days when we shot film. Because now we can shoot a digital image in the middle of the day where it's very contrasty, where we have shadows and we have bright spots. But with digital photography, we have a dynamic range that we can work within to help bring up those shadow areas and bring down those highlight areas and to help balance out the picture. As a matter of fact, if you're an Adobe user, even if you're using some other programs like maybe DxO Photo Lab or Luminar Neo, there are sliders and buttons that kind of work like an auto button to help you automatically enhance your pictures and kind of give them a head start. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me go ahead and open this image right here, and I'm going to go ahead and open this into the develop module of Lightroom Classic, and you can see it's a very contrasty image, a lot of deep shadows, nice bright sky, bright trees, and this is typically something that most of you may pass up during the day. Or maybe you take this picture and you get back and you load it on your computer and you're like, oh, vey, I mean, look at the, no, you can work with this, and that's what I'm going to show you in this video. But before we do that, I just want to show you one thing real quick. I want to go over here to a workshop I have coming up. Now, depending on when you watch this video, because again, this video is going to remain active for as long as I keep it going on YouTube. So you may be watching this after this workshop, or you may be watching this in time to grab one of these 2 remaining slots. But I have a spectacular Sedona Landscape Masterclass Photography Workshop coming up October 4th through 10th. It's obviously in Sedona, Arizona. It's going to be amazing. The scenery out there is phenomenal. I have 2 slots left. We're going to be photographing everything you see here. It's a masterclass. I'm going to be working with you in the field, side by side. Nobody leaves any of our locations until I see you have a money shot on your camera. I mean, nobody leaves without wall-worthy, museum-quality images. We're going to be doing post-processing workshops, formal classroom-style trainings for talk about composition, talking about post-processing, talking about getting your images ready for print. As a matter of fact, I am so sure that you're going to get fantastic images that I'm going to actually pay to have some canvases made for you when you get back home. How about that? We're going to be doing, like I said, classroom style trainings, in the field photography, sunrise, sunset. I'm paying for a welcome dinner. I'm paying for the farewell dinner. We got breakfasts we're going to in the mornings. We have downtime in the afternoon where you can do some post-processing. You can download your images, but not all afternoon. We're going to be out there shooting, which is what this video is all about. So if you go to my website, posneg.com, and you click on events, you're going to see the Sedona event. Or you can go to this URL right here, posneg.com/events/Sedona. And you can read all about this upcoming workshop and look at some of the pictures. And then there's an entire link to talk about pricing. What's included? If you're on my flight, I will take you from Phoenix Airport to the hotel in Sedona, which is 2 hours. And I will take you back when we fly back home if you're on my flights. Transportation all during the workshop included. A group welcome dinner, a group farewell dinner, one-on-one training in the field. And in the afternoons, I'm going to sit down with you and critique your images and help you get better for the next day. You and me, one-on-one, going over your images for the day or maybe the day before, or maybe go over your images that you assembled for a couple of days worth and you want me to critique them and help you get better for the next day. Again, post-processing trainings, so much going on, but make sure you scroll down, click for pricing, the deposit payment, and payment schedule. And oh, by the way, right now, $650 off those 2 slots that are left. If you pay your deposit, a $500 deposit by the end of this month, by the end of July, $650 off, and then you'll make a payment at the end of, you'll make 2 remaining equal payments on July 30th and September 1st. So you get to spread this out over 3 payments. Okay, so let's get back to Lightroom. And so we're in the develop module. And the first thing I like to do is click in the basic module, click the auto button. But you want to make sure you go to lens correction and make sure your profile correction and remove chromatic aberrations is checked off. Watch what happens when I uncheck profile correction. Just take a look at the picture. It's got some distortion around the edges. So by clicking enable profile correction under lens correction, Adobe knows exactly what lens you used. It knows what the idiosyncrasies and the distortions are, and it fixes them. So make sure you do that first. Now, when I import my pictures into Lightroom, I'll take my memory card out of my camera, put it in my laptop, and then I will upload my pictures from my card through the Lightroom import module to my external hard drive. And at that time, I tell Lightroom to do lens correction and chromatic aberration on every picture on the way in. So I don't have to do it afterwards, okay? But if you're not doing that, make sure you go to lens correction and check those off. So now I'm gonna go up to the basic module and I'm gonna hit the auto button. So let's take a look at the picture. Okay, so let me go back. I'm going to double click on tone, which is going to undo that. Okay, so here we have without the auto button, with the auto button. So the auto button is also a good training tool because you can see it's showing you what it did. It upped the exposure by almost 0.8 of a stop. It added a little bit of contrast. It turned the highlights down, which are the brightest parts of the picture, and it turned the shadows up, which is the darkest parts of the picture, which is what you want. And it worked on the white points and the black points. Now, it doesn't touch these 3 sliders because these present sliders, texture, clarity, dehaze, is more of a personal preference. And all 3 of those sliders do a little bit of sharpening. So you got to be careful with them and really understand what they do. But for today's training, I want to talk to you more about balancing out these contrasty images. So I can go the shadow slider, even after hitting the auto button, I can go the shadow slider, override it, and do more. So you can see I upped the shadows a little bit more, but I can't up it anymore. I ran out of room to up my shadows. Okay. But let me show you something. When I take this picture, I'm gonna hit Control E on my PC, or you can hit Command E on your Mac. Control E on a PC or Command E on a Mac will send your picture over to Photoshop, or right click on the picture, edit in Photoshop 2026. So now watch what's going to happen. This picture is going to open up in Photoshop. Let me open up the Photoshop workspace. Okay, here's the picture with the adjustments I made, but I can go to Filter and I can go to Camera Raw Filter. I got to move my little video box out of the way here. Okay, Filter, Camera Raw Filter, and Camera Raw Filter is Lightroom Classic. Look, it's all this. You got the auto button up here. You got your basic module in Lightroom is the same thing here. You have light, color, and effects. These three are all part of the basic module in Lightroom Classic. Instead of lens correction, it's called optics. Same thing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the auto button again. And maybe it'll do a little bit more of an adjustment here. So let's open up the white panel. Let's hit the auto button. And by the way, you can see all my sliders are at 0. So where the shadow slider was maxed out in Lightroom Classic, everything starts at 0 here by bringing it in to Photoshop, not as, what's the word I'm looking for? Not the object, God, it slipped my mind. But you can see I have the slider, so I'm going to go to shadow, and I'm going to open up the shadows even more. Okay, which I couldn't do in Lightroom Classic because I had maxed it out. Okay, so I can turn my highlights down a little bit more if I need to. Maybe I want to turn the exposure up a little bit on the entire photo. Okay, so I can do something like this. So I'm going to open this up in Photoshop, and let's go back to Lightroom real quick, and let me reset this picture and show you what I started with. So we went from this very contrasty, shadowy picture that we took with our digital camera, and we made it into this. I mean, you prefer this? Who wouldn't like this? And maybe I want to add a little bit of clarity to this, so I'm going to go back into the Camera Raw filter and watch, my sliders are at 0 again. Okay, every time I go into the Adobe Camera Raw filter, my sliders start over. So I can bring my shadows up some more if I want. I'm going to go to effects, and I'm going to add a little bit of clarity to this image. I mean, I'm liking that. I mean, I'm really liking that. And if I need to bring my shadows up a little bit more, I can still do that. So let's open this up. Okay, and let's see, again, we started here and we ended here. All right, so let me close this out, and let's go back over to Lightroom Classic, and let's go over to another picture. So let's take this one right here, and I'm going to put this in the develop module. Okay, and this was a shot, Red Rocks shot that I took, and this was in outside of Las Vegas at the Red Rocks Canyon. And I'm going to start with, now you'll see that lens correction's already done because, like I said, I did it on the way in. As I imported my pictures in through the Lightroom Classic module, I did lens correction, and as I imported it in, I also changed the file name. So instead of DSCF, which means nothing to me, these files start with the word Nevada because that's where I shot the picture, is Nevada. So it means something to me. Okay, so I'm going to go back over here to the basic module. And let's start again with the auto button. Okay, there's a little bit of a head start. Okay, before, after. So again, I'm going to override this. As a matter of fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to reset this, and I'm going to send this over to Photoshop. Okay, so now I'm in the Photoshop workspace, and what I'm going to do is I want to do sequential layers to kind of show you a progression. So this is what's called the background layer. Okay, so on my PC I hit Control J and I get a new layer, or on a Mac Command J, and I'm going to call this layer Let's call this Adobe Camera Raw 1. Okay, so I'm going to send this over to the Camera Raw filter. So filter, Camera Raw filter. All right, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the auto button. Okay, and I'm just going to hit OK. There we go. Okay, what do I want to do next? I want to go back into the Adobe Camera Raw filter. So I'm going to do another layer, Control J, and let's call this Adobe, hang on, get Adobe Camera Raw 2. Okay, so let's take this back into the Camera Raw filter. Now I can also do Shift Control A as a keyboard shortcut. So now we're back here, and I want to bring the shadows up some more. So I'm going to bring up my shadows a little bit more. Okay, and the bright spots in here, the highlights, let's bring this down a little bit. Okay, and if I hit the letter P on my keyboard, I can see what it looked like previously. Okay, before I made these two changes. Okay, so this already had the auto done to it, and this is what I just added a little bit more to. Okay, so let's see, maybe I want to find the white and black point. Well, what exactly is that? Well, let me show you what you do. If you hold down your Alt key and you click on the white, you start to move it up to the right until you start to see some light come through, like right there. And then hold down your Alt key and click on blacks. And I guess on a Mac, instead of Alt, it's your Option key. And you go to the left until you start to see some of that black coming through. See it at the bottom? And now you found your white and your black point. Now let's see what it looked like previous. Okay, so it adds a lot of punch. Look at the highlights here. That's before, and that's after. So the picture is having a little bit more balance to it. Now something else I can do is I can go over here to this masking tool, gradient, and I get this little plus sign. You see this little plus sign up here? I'm going to bring it down to the bottom, and I'm going to drag it up, and I'm going to tilt it a little bit. I'm just going to highlight the shadow area down here at the bottom, and I'm going to bring those shadows up a little bit more, and maybe the exposure a little bit more. Okay, look at that. And maybe I'll bring up the saturation a little bit more. Okay, and let me go ahead and hit the previous, before, after, and after that. And let's hit OK. And let's do a little bit of, let's take a look at where we started. And then we went to the auto button. We went to Adobe Camera Raw and we hit the auto button. And then we went back into Adobe Camera Raw and we tweaked it even more. Okay? So from this to this. Okay? From this middle of the day picture to this. All right, let's try another one. Let me close this out. Let's go back over to Lightroom Classic. And let's take this picture right here. Okay, and I'm just going to right click it and I'm going to just send this sucker right over to Photoshop. And I'm going to do it again in layers so you can see the progression. Okay, so here we are. Control 0 or Command 0 brings it up screen size. Control 1 or Command 1 brings it up full size. Okay, so let's go back to Control 0 and here's our background layer. Control or Command J gives me a new layer. So I'm going to call this ACR, Adobe Camera Raw 1. So let's go back into Filter, Camera Raw. There we go. And let's go ahead and hit the auto button. All right, gives us a little bit of a head start. So that's what the auto button did. All right, let's do another layer. And we're going to call this, get in here, we're going to call this ACR2, because now we're going back into the Camera Raw filter again. Filter, Camera Raw. Okay, I can hit auto again, and it did a little bit more. House is getting a little bit bright. I'm going to turn the highlights down on that house, see that? And I'm going to turn the shadows back up to give the picture more balance. So before and after what we just did. All right. And let me go ahead and hit OK. And let's take a look at where we started with this middle of the day picture where, God forbid, we do photography in the middle of the day and we've got this bright white building and we've got these dark shadows. And after, before and after. And I can go back into Camera Raw. Again, Control Shift A is a shortcut, keyboard shortcut. I can hit Auto again and see what else Adobe wants to do to it. But I want to turn the highlights down again on the house. There we go. And probably add a little bit of contrast. And maybe go down here to Effects and add some clarity to the picture. That gives it some punch. Okay, so basically we went from this to this. Okay, original picture, auto button, and then we went back into Adobe Camera Raw and we did some fine tuning. All right, let's go back to, whoop, didn't want to click that. That was pure raw. Let's go back into Lightroom Classic and let's do this one. And I'm gonna work on this. I'm gonna start with this in the develop module. I know a lot of you aren't as familiar with Photoshop or as comfortable with Photoshop, but trust me, I can get you comfortable in Photoshop in a half an hour. So here we go. This is our original. Again, you'll see that lens correction was already done. So back up here to the basic module. Let's hit the auto button. Wow, big difference, okay? Before, after. Now you can always go over here to history and you can go back to where you were a step before. Okay, just so you know. So really, really bright here. So I'm going to turn the highlights down a little bit more. Okay, probably would have liked to go on a little bit more on the highlights, but I'm already down here with my highlights and I got my shadows up. So let's do that same little thing. Hold down the Alt key or the Options key, I believe, on a Mac. Click on whites, and I've already got some white showing. So my white point is here, and let's turn down. Here's my black point, and I can just hit my above your Enter key on your keyboard is that /. So the / gives me before and after. Okay, not bad. Now, if I want to stay in Lightroom and I want to darken the sidewalk, there's a couple things I can do. I can go over here to the masking tool, select the brush, and you can see the brush, it's a circle right here, and I can go ahead and just select just this pavement, this brickwork here. Okay, so I'm just selecting this area right here, which was a little bright, and now I can go down here to highlights, and turn it down even more, see? And maybe even bring the exposure down a little bit. Okay, so look at that. Before, after. Okay, so the sidewalk looks good. The shadowing looks good. Maybe you want to add a little bit of saturation to the picture. Bring up the saturation a little bit. And I can go over here. Let's go head back over to the main editing here, and let's turn the I'm gonna turn the, go back over here, and I'm gonna turn the saturation up a little bit more. So scroll down here. I can bring the saturation up on the entire picture a little bit more, but you don't want to, you don't want to make it look too saturated. Okay. And you can always work on individual parts of the picture, individual colors in the picture as well. So maybe I want to go to the, let's go over to the effects. And I'm going to take this vignette slider and I'm going to move it to the left, which is going to create a little bit of a darkness around the edges. That's very extreme. You don't want to do that. But if you move it in just a little bit, it'll subliminally move your audience to the center of the picture. So if I didn't tell you I did this, you may not have known. Before, after. Before and after. Okay? And let's see, we got I think yeah, it's all four. Yep. So we got all four of those done. So anyway, I hope that this helps you number one, to get out in the middle of the day, any time of the day. Again, there's no such thing as bad light, just bad usage of light. And then once you capture your images, think about your post-processing skills. These programs are here to help you balance out the dynamic range, the difference between the brightest and the darkest parts of your pictures. And you can see 4 different examples I showed you on how to balance this out and bring these pictures back to life. Because as a photographer, that's your responsibility to go back, remember what you saw, because remember, your eyes and your brain work a lot better than your camera. Your camera doesn't have your brain in your eyes. Your camera doesn't adjust by where you look or where you point it. It's up to you to get these pictures in the post-processing later, these contrasty, shadowy pictures, and balance them out. So thank you for joining me to this first official recording of Free Weekly Wisdom. And again, this link will not expire. Watch it as many times as you want and catch up with you next week. All right, guys, take care.